Hello and welcome back to another video. This video I'm going to talk about my fourth ayahuasca experience. Right now, so far I've done about 22 ayahuasca ceremonies, and lately I've been feeling spirit guiding me to share my journeys. So this is number 4. I'm gonna try to get more videos out, um, but I don't know. It's a process. I go through a process every time I read these journeys in my journal, and so I'm sharing them with you, and hopefully you can learn something. And I hope this encourages you to drink the wonderful medicine of ayahuasca. Discover your birthright. Disclaimer: I do not recommend anybody drinks ayahuasca or any spiritual medicine without the proper facilitation, such as a group of healers and or reputable shamans. Reputable is the key word. Let's see here. So shamanic medicine journey number 4, and I'm reading to you directly from my journal. I find this a lot. The videos go by quicker if I just read it than if I actually talk about it. Because I can sit here and talk about it for like an hour. Okay, so here we go. Shamanic medicine journey number 4, Santo Daime. So in June 2016, the circle was a little different than the previous circle. This was a Brazilian ceremony. I was in a land far away at a place called the Church of Santo Daime. The sacrament they used was the same shamanic brew I've had before. This church invited Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Pachamama, Wakantanka, all our most benevolent and loving ancestors, plant spirits, animal spirits, ascended masters, to journey together with all the participants. Also, I want to note that they pretty much invited any benevolent, I hate to say deity, entity. So like Shiva was welcome, Oshun, spirit of the ocean, Yamanja. The list goes on and on and on. What's that? John the Baptist, and so on. If you could think of a enlightened, if you could think of an ascended master, or a benevolent being, then they were welcome. It was all light work. It's pretty much anybody on the side of light. They were welcome. There was a traditional initiated shaman and a healer that was serving the daime to the participants after saying the Lord's Prayer. They were assisted by other healers called guardians, and there were about 60 participants. As I drank the daime, it tasted just as disgusting as the previous brew, but exactly the same. I felt like vomiting right away, but I knew I needed to let it settle, so I willed it to stay in. After everyone was served, we all sat down and shared our intention for the ceremony. When it was my turn to share, I said that I would like to know who I really am. I was barely about to share because I really felt nauseous at the time. I heard a man behind me purging, and this made me feel like vomiting more. The circle had barely finished sharing every participant's intentions when I could not hold in my vomit any longer. I grabbed a bucket and purged all that I had in me. I then heard the singing of what now I know as hymnos, which is the traditional songs of the Santo Daime Church. My monkey mind took over, and I felt that these people were trying to hypnotize me somehow to go back to Christianity. And then I put in quotations, I couldn't have been more wrong. So I called out to my loving ancestors and helpful animal spirit guides for help. I called out to the great eagle spirit in particular. By this time it sounded like everyone was purging. The shaman had started to sing his Icaros, which sounded horrifying. I can't stress how horrifying the Icaros sounded. Nowadays the Icaros are very delightful. I actually look forward to hearing the Icaros, but back then man, they were really hard to listen to. They really made me feel uncomfortable. He played an accordion which opened a portal filled with squares. It looked kind of like a stretched out web. I picture it in my head as an exorcism happening to people all around me. With my eyes closed, I saw a kaleidoscope of evil faces, like etherical bugs with sharp teeth. I got frightened, and I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I saw two guardians that were standing near me. It seemed like when they saw that my eyes were open, they were filled with disappointment. Disappointment filled their faces, I should say. I felt like I was about to score a goal, but I didn't kick the ball. And the guardians slowly walked away. I wanted to keep my eyes open, but I couldn't. My eyelids felt very heavy. The moment I closed my eyes, I saw that horrifying kaleidoscope was back. I could still hear possessions happening to participants all around me. My monkey mind came back, and I thought about how if I went to sleep, I would wake up thinking that my family and... Okay, so this is a little... This is just, this is what the medicine does. This is me talking. It makes you think of some really weird stuff. And if you have researched, the truth movement and all the, fear-based videos, it can really mess with you. And here's an example of how those videos in particular have messed with me. I've worked through it, so it's obviously not a problem anymore. But these are the kind of things that your mind brings up when you're under the medicine. So here we go. So my monkey mind came back, and I thought about how if I went to sleep, I would wake up thinking my family and friends were all reptiles, and that this world would be worse than before, and that somehow I'd be tricked. I heard the shaman going around to the struggling participants with feathers. I could hear him flapping his feathers vigorously around them, clearing out the negative energy. I could hear the healers praying both in English and in other languages, such as Spanish and Portuguese. Some languages were not even of this world. I could also hear the shaman had a bird whistle, that when he flapped the feathers to clear the negative energy, he also blew a whistle which sounded like a bird. Or so I thought, in quotations. The bird had a very high-pitched chirp, almost like a laser. I assumed it was a whistle and that the shaman was using. I tried to will the visions into beauty, but with no success. So these kaleidoscopes, they were... What I mean by horrifying kaleidoscopes is that, like, I was seeing like bugs mixed with demon faces, devils, those kind of things that that you learn as a kid, and the fear just kind of sticks with you. It's kind of like a hidden fear, kind of like the shadows and the spooks and the ghosts and goblins and stuff like that. And they were all like in this kaleidoscope. That's what the horrifying kaleidoscope was like. That and like cockroaches, spiders, centipedes, that kind of stuff. A good example of it would be the movie Blueberry or Renegade. I think it's Blueberry in Europe and Renegade in America, but anyway, it's a western about ayahuasca. I recommend everybody go check it out. It's amazing. And yeah, that like kind of kaleidoscope that he sees towards the end, that's what I saw. And I saw this before I saw that movie, by the way. Okay, where am I at? I tried to will the visions into beauty, but with no success. I opened my eyes again, and I saw that the same two guardians were there standing over me. This time they looked even more disappointed. I felt very nauseous again, and I tried to vomit, but nothing came out. I drank more water, but still nothing was being purged. I asked for more medicine, but when the guardian tried to take my bucket away to give me another dose, I felt the purge come back. The guardian told me that if I still needed to purge, then I needed to hold off on the second dose for now. I knelt back down over my bucket and I tried to purge again, but nothing would come out. I drank all my water, but still could not vomit. I still felt nauseous, but I laid down anyway and I closed my eyes. I could hear what sounded like bones snapping from a possessed participant, or what I thought was a possessed participant. I heard the main healer ask everyone who was aware to call out to their spirit guides, spirit animals, and loving ancestors to be present in the circle and to assist those who are possessed. Those are my words, not hers. I could hear much more purging going on with other participants. The horrifying kaleidoscope was still presented in front of me, but at this point I felt more comfortable staring into a horrifying kaleidoscope than to get up and try vomiting nothing. As I watched the kaleidoscope, I saw a demon's face pop out. I woke up and asked one of the guardians to take me outside to get some air. He walked me outside and got me a bucket. I thought that seeing some trees and getting some fresh air would help me, like it would ground me somehow. But I was wrong. The trees had never felt so distant before, and I could not hear any birds, and the air felt very stagnant. The sun was very hot, and it was dry. Others were outside as well. There was another man there thanking his ancestors for such an amazing journey. I sat there and stared at my bucket. I don't remember for how long. I just stared. I remember a woman came out and stood in front of me. She was facing the sun with her hands open at her sides. Her eyes were rolled to the back of her head, and it appeared that she was receiving the sun's energy. I was kind of freaked out, but honestly, that was the least terrifying thing that I thought was going on that day. If she was possessed, it was with love and not fear, like the others inside. I can feel comfort with her being there somehow. I went back to staring at my bucket for a while when I felt a warm hand touch my back. I heard a man's voice say, "You are not alone." I looked to see a man sitting there. He had glasses and a smile on his face. I wasn't sure if he was real or a spirit guide. I nodded silently to him and went back to staring at my bucket. I then heard some slamming noises going on nearby, and two men were arguing. It sounded like they were about to fight. I looked around, but nobody was there. I then heard a motorcycle go by, but at the time it sounded like a demon's growl. I saw that the man with glasses was kneeling at an altar to honor his spirit guides and ancestors. He did not seem bothered by the demonic growling I heard. I got up and I went back inside. As soon as I got inside, I laid down and closed my eyes. I could still hear much purging going on, but I tried to mentally shield myself from those hideous noises because they were affecting my journey. The kaleidoscope came back and the demons' faces popped out, but I stared at it anyway. It went back into the kaleidoscope, and the kaleidoscope turned into an image of an intestines. These intestines had eyeballs, and they were being squeezed of some sort of green liquid. I then felt like I was in a dungeon, that all those who were spiritually advanced enough had gone up to the higher realms, and that those of us that stayed were now casted into some sort of dungeon. I could hear all the men and women around me purging along with some horrifying sounds coming from their vocal cords. I heard one woman get up and lock herself in the bathroom. I could hear the guardians trying to force the door open to get her out. I heard the shamans chanting like he was in charge of torturing us spiritually. That we were all possessed, and we now must wait our turn to have an exorcism. Once again, this was all in my mind. There was no doors being forced open. There was no spiritual torture of any kind. It's amazing what your mind can create for you, and this was all in my mind. The dungeon, if I can explain it to you, it was kind of like if you guys have seen the movie Doctor Strange, the newest one, and the one that came out in 2017, I think December 2017. In the beginning, there's a part where like the world starts to like mirror itself and then split apart into like all these other like little squares. That's the closest I've seen to what this dungeon looks like. I mean, it was a lot like that, where it was just like all these squares and like mirrored images, and I mean, it was a very strange place, which now I realize was a dimension. So yeah, so that's what it was like, and there was a presence there too. Like there was like a, I want to say there was definitely the divine feminine there, but it wasn't like benevolent. It was more, I don't want to say benevolent. It wasn't like it was there to have fun. It was there to, well, it was there to clean house. It was there to kick some ass. And that's what I meant by the shaman was, in charge of torturing us, is he's just singing his song spiritually. But the more he sang, the more torturous this dungeon became. But that wasn't the shaman's intention. That was him just singing his song. And now when I hear him sing his songs, I realize that there was no torturous intention there. He's singing about beauty, and he's singing about, thanking Madre for nature and for love and for family and community, and he actually prays soon after his singing as well. And it's really, the singing is a prayer. It's my mind that's creating this, that sends me to this dimension where I need to be cleansed, and that's where this presence is. this female presence is there to cleanse those who go there. I hope that makes sense. Please comment down below, and I'll try to answer any questions I can. Okay, back to the story. Suddenly I heard a soft sounding guitar, and it started out soft and gentle, and it was the only thing pleasant in this dungeon. I heard the guitar speed up, and it somehow created a path, like an ethereal yellow brick road. I followed the road out of the dungeon, and the road turned into a portal. I then felt the urge to vomit, so I got up to purge, but saw that everyone was dancing. Here I was purging while everyone else was dancing. I was happy to finally vomit, though. After I vomited, I looked around and saw I was the only one still journeying, still processing. I thought to myself, where are all the others that I heard purging? Where are all the ones that were possessed? I looked and saw that nobody had locked themselves in the bathroom. I could hear the guitar that created the portal, and it was the shaman playing, while everyone else was dancing. There were also drumming and clapping, and I saw one man moving his body like liquid. I also saw another man dancing like a monkey, literally crouched down like a monkey. I saw the same woman from outside clapping and singing from across the room. I could hear the healers calling out and encouraging us to dance. I tried, but I couldn't stay standing for too long. Every time I tried to stand, I would go back to my knees over my purge bucket and vomit. I just wanted it to be over. I wanted the medicine out. I even told the guardians that my body still needs to vomit up more medicine, that I needed to get the medicine out of my system. I did not realize what I was saying. I was moved to a private room where 2 healers worked with me. I wanted to be out of my journey. I wanted to feel better so I could go home to be with my wife. I knew that if I came home any later, she would be worried. I chugged more water and vomited a little, but it was still a struggle to get it out. A shaman worked with me by instructing me with breathing exercises. He then told me to keep breathing as he picked up a didgeridoo and placed it near my belly. He blew it loud, and I could feel its vibrating, breaking up something inside of me. I finally purged up all the water I had drank. It seemed like a gallon of water. I was amazed to see that it was all so clear, that no medicine was being purged from me. I had the epiphany at that moment that the medicine stays in the body, that what is being vomited is not the medicine, but instead it is the toxins and negative energies. The shaman are correct about the purge, or la purga. I was purging water, which no longer served me, and I knew I needed to stop drinking because the medicine was not going to come out. I think the shaman knew this too, because he told me I needed to rest and to release my attachments. I laid down, and this time I allowed myself to go to sleep. So when I say sleep, I mean like a unsleep. It's actually just rest. I don't. Sleep is really hard to do on this medicine. It feels like sleep. Your body feels like it's going to sleep, but your mind doesn't go to that sleep realm. Not easily, anyway. So anyway, I laid down at this time and allowed myself to go to sleep. I did think about how upset my wife would be when I didn't come home that night, but I realized that was something I would just have to accept. I had to accept that this was going to be an overnight journey. I had to face the fact that science has no idea what this divine plant medicine really is. Science may say that the journey lasts for 6 hours, but in reality, Pachamama, Mother Earth, decides when to end the journey. I finally accepted that in my heart, and I went to sleep regardless of the consequences I would face the next morning. So if I could explain this, so I was tripping that it was getting late, and my wife is thinking that I'm out partying or something. and then I'm not actually at the ceremony or whatever, and I'm just thinking like, oh, she's gonna be so upset, I'm not gonna be able to explain this to her, and then if I fall asleep and I don't get home to her tonight, and if I, show up tomorrow morning, there's gonna be some problems. She's gonna yell at me, and it's gonna hurt our marriage, and blah 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 blah, and that is what was preventing me from letting myself go for 11 hours, even though the medicine is supposed to, the journey is 6 hours. I was in it for 11 hours because I wouldn't let myself go in fear of disappointing my wife. And so when I finally took that chance, when I finally said, okay, if I go and I don't show up till tomorrow morning, I'm just going to tell her the truth and see where the chips fall and just accept whatever happens. So I slept for a short while, but I was awoken by the participants eating food and talking about their journeys. I felt much better, so I got up and ate some food. I felt a little nauseous, but not nearly as much as before. It was more like a lingering memory of the purge. I talked with some participants and hugged as many people as I could. I thanked all the guardians and healers and shamans for helping me out and working with me personally. I especially thank the two guardians that were there for me the entire journey. They were literally watching over me for hours, and I'm so grateful for these loving souls. So just to explain that, when I say that I slept for a short while, that was the moment where I was accepting the fact that I may not, that I may go journey for hours and then not wake up till tomorrow morning and then have to face my wife. When I accepted that, I journeyed for 20 minutes and then I was back up and I was ready to mingle and eat food. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they're I'm really grateful for these guardians. Right now I've worked with them many times, and now I consider them dear friends. But at the time, I was just grateful for what they did. Um, and so eventually, I did get home, but when I did get home, my nausea kicked back in. I arrived home about an hour later than I said I would be, and I expected my wife to be up waiting for me in anger, but thankfully she was asleep. As I watched my wife and kids sleep for a minute, I could feel my love for them expand to the point of tears of joy filling my eyes. I was so grateful for my family, and I was so happy to be back with them at home. I had a feeling like an inner knowing that once I laid down and went to sleep, that my nausea would fade. I thought about trying to vomit in the bathroom, but I decided to lay down instead. I wish I could say that I slept peacefully, but I did not. Every time I closed my eyes, that horrifying pattern would come back. I would open my eyes and feel nauseous again. I rolled to my side in case I vomited in my sleep, but then I forced my eyes shut and told myself I would not open them no matter what I see. So I closed my eyes and stared at the horrific kaleidoscope, and eventually I did go to sleep. It seemed that the journey can continue when in the dream realm. I'm starting to think that they are the same realm, but that is a whole other article in itself. Unfortunately, I don't remember what happened exactly, but I do remember hearing a voice saying, "Welcome to hell," followed by evil laughter. Yeah, now that's that's laughable, but back then it was pretty serious to me. I was pretty freaked out. And really, what this is you know, breaking the attachments that my previous religion had on me. You know, I grew up Christian, so I guess there was more of me that believed in the heaven hell uh, than I thought, and that needed to be broken down. And Pachamama helped me to break that down, break those attachments. Religion is a difficult process to break down, but believe me, it is possible. I woke up and I saw that the sun was rising through my curtains. I was so thankful to be alive and to be with my family. I spent the rest of the day drinking lime water and just allowing the medicine to work through my system. I did not try to vomit, no matter how nauseous I felt. I also meditated a lot, and the nausea finally diminished later that evening. When I went to bed that night, I had the best sleep ever. I felt my energy body radiating. It felt like I was physically in another vibration, a higher vibration, and I was floating. I could feel every cell in my body vibrating very intensely, but with a lot of comfort. Felt like a warm massage chair in the highest setting. I also remember having a conversation with a woman in a dream, but I don't remember what was said. The next morning I felt wonderful and I had an abundance of energy that lasted throughout the day. I went into my garden and I could see the colors were so vibrant and the flowers were glowing. I could hear so many birds chirping. It was like I was in a rainforest. I've never noticed so many birds visiting my garden. The birds would approach me much closer than before. It's like they could sense that I was on a higher vibration. One bird in particular had the exact chirping sound that I heard during my ceremony. I noticed this bird would puff out its chest and ward off other birds and squirrels that would try approaching the garden fence. After some research, I later found that this bird is a red robin. The thought occurred to me that maybe this was the bird spirit that was with me during the ceremony, that maybe it was communicating with me by showing me that it was warding off negative energy, just like it was warding off other creatures in my garden. As the bird flew overhead, I heard its flapping sounded exactly like the flapping during the ceremony. During the ceremony, I thought it was the shaman with ceremonial feathers and a bird whistle. But in my garden, I heard the same noise, and there was no shaman present at the time. I either heard a bird from outside of the building with closed doors and windows and music playing and people purging at night, or I heard a spirit. Whether it was the medicine enhancing my hearing so I could hear the bird outside, or the medicine allowed me to hear a bird animal spirit, it's still unknown to me. Either way, it has drawn me closer to birds. I have a whole new love and respect for these amazing creatures. I meditated a lot on the event that happened over the weekend. I thought about how one man can play a guitar, sing Icaros, and use a bird whistle at the same time. It occurred to me that I did not see a whistle or anybody using a whistle. I only assumed there was one because it sounded like it was in the same room. It is quite possible that although I did not see any of my spirit guides, I heard them. I meditated more on the horrifying kaleidoscope. What was that I was being shown? I asked a friend who was more experienced with medicine. It helped to integrate my journey with others, and it helps me to relive it, to walk them through it with as much detail as I can remember. It really helps me to relive the journey, and I realized that the kaleidoscope was what is known as the River of Sorrow. I was advised to cross it next time, to stare it down until it changes into something else. It may be a suppressed memory I need to be aware of in order for healing to take place. I came to the realization that the shaman's Icaros sounds frightening because they are meant to help me face my fears. That is the only way I will truly have no fear and to become fearless. I was not in any danger, and I felt no pain. Next time, I will stare into the river of sorrows. I will face my fears in order to realize that I have nothing to fear. This, after all, is my journey to become fearless. The following night I had a dream that I was meditating with a woman teacher. She was wearing a blue robe, and I remember during the meditation I opened my eyes and saw a blue crystal floating in front of me. I heard her voice say, "This is yours." Then I woke up. I now use this crystal as a visual tool when I meditate. It has helped me to focus and to clean my aura and the auras of others during healing ceremony. I am so thankful for this spiritual gift of healing, and I love to share it with others. Aho, matakwiyase, to all my relations. So, that's it. That's shamanic medicine journey number 4, Santo Daime. And like I said, I'm on my I can remember 22 ceremonies. I can't tell you how many cups of ayahuasca I've had, because I don't remember how many cups, but I do remember how many ceremonies, because one thing I try to make a habit of is that the day after ceremony I write it down in my journal. That's how I remember. And so I have been called to share it with you, and I really hope that this ignites something within you, within your spirit. I hope that you can feel the love that I have for humanity, and that my higher self can reach to your higher self, and to help you to work through any questions you may have about the ceremony and the medicine. So I thank you for listening, and I thank you for going on this journey with me. Please be safe. Remember, you are never alone. Mother Earth, Pachamama, is always with you. Ground to her before every journey, and travel safe in the love and the light. Peace be with you.